New at 10 tonight, a small Douglas cemetery has become a big problem.
So now the News 4 Tucson investigators have spent 2 months looking into why the Julia Page Memorial Cemetery has been seemingly abandoned. Our chief investigative reporter, Corey Nylander, has the latest.
Well, this cemetery receives virtually no maintenance, has faced code violations, and has left people with loved ones buried here very furious. When we first started asking questions of the property's owner back in December, we were faced with a lot of finger pointing and a mystery of who is actually responsible for it. That mystery is now over.
Buried my parents roughly 6 months apart, put them to rest here back in 1994.
Michael Watson misses his mother and father every day. The Julia Page Memorial Cemetery in Douglas is their final resting place, but he feels this sacred ground has become far from a fitting memorial.
I just absolutely could not believe the state of this. It looks like a pioneer graveyard.
Just a few steps away is a city-run cemetery.
Goodbye, Grandpa. Goodbye, Grandma.
Where his grandparents are buried. The difference is startling.
This is respectful, and not so much for my father and my mother.
From overgrown weeds to mounds of garbage, the Julia Page Cemetery has faced code violations, but only gets cleaned up by volunteers and people like Michael and Loa Brown, who have loved ones buried here.
There's some headstones that have been broken, removed, scattered. It's a tragedy, really. It's embarrassment for the city of Douglas.
Then there's this woman who doesn't want to be identified. She first told the News 4 Tucson investigators about the issues back in December. Her family faced a tough decision recently when her father passed. He had long had a reserved plot, only to discover no record of it and no options for burial services. Her family dug a hole and buried him themselves anyway.
I don't even know if that's legal, to tell you the truth. But my family did it because we needed to have peace.
The listed owner of the property is Julia Patton. Patton told the News 4 Tucson investigators in December she was too old to care for the cemetery now and donated it to the local Catholic churches. But in our first report, we showed you how the diocese contested that transfer. Now the diocese tells us they were successful rejecting the donation, meaning Patton now is the undisputed owner. When I reached back out to Patton to see what she plans to do now, she responded via text, quote, "Cry me a river next."
We're concerned as a city for the people who have loved ones buried there.
Douglas Mayor Donald Hewish says since we've started asking questions, the city has been looking closer at what options there are. One effort is trying to see if inmate cleanup crews could regularly visit and clean up the cemetery. Hewish also contacted someone who many years ago, he says, was interested in purchasing the property, but with almost all plots long sold, there's few options to make it a profitable business.
So it would be out of the goodness of their hearts that they would possibly look at that.
For Michael, he knows a solution will likely require some form of charity. He feels it's important for so many families.
We'd like to see it taken care of.
I asked Mayor Hewish why the city can't simply just take things over here. He says they looked into buying the property several years ago, but weren't in a financial position to do it. He feels things may be different now, but that would still take the full support of the city council and, of course, the willingness of Julia Patton to sell it to them, and at what cost. He estimates that the yearly maintenance costs here would be about $100,000. Reporting from Douglas, Corey Nylander, News 4 Tucson.